Greetings YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Although greetings YouTube is what I intend for to be like a friendly greeting of love and comfort, and this video is not going to be the most loving and comforting video I've ever produced on this channel, because this could easily go in the "if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it" series that I've done a couple times a year for the last 6 years. Or it could go in "this is why we can't have nice things" series of videos, which I've also done on average probably a couple times a year for the last 6 years. Either way, we have to end this discussion once and for all 2 data points. Now, there is an argument that I think is quite honestly fairly ridiculous, that Kabam employees don't actually play their own game. From Kabam Jacks to so many others, we have proof from accounts that they've run that they not only play the game, but a lot of them, like the aforementioned Kabam Jacks, aren't particularly great at the game. And as somebody who also doesn't consider himself, especially amongst his YouTuber peers, to be great at the game, I appreciate when someone's willing to be honest about their shortcomings skill-wise instead of trying to be better than they actually are. Nothing is more annoying to me than somebody that is fraudulent in terms of what they claim versus the actions that precede it, which is why my Battle Realm bestie Katie Candy and I for years have always said we are the best face-blocking, non-node reading, haters of long-form content players on YouTube. And yes, every one of those things is not something that you should aspire to be or to do necessarily, but it is the reality of our situation. So all of this is to say that in the last couple years, we have seen some pretty crazy changes to things that have been around for years. Everything from the Mole Man bug to pausing to run out the timer on everything from incursions to war to Alliance Quest. Remember when people would do that with Corvus? And I'm sure they probably still do to a certain degree. And then a few content creators were either playing with Kabam on the stream or Kabam was watching and Kabam saw them do it. And it was at that moment that they realized that that's something that people do and the best players can do often. And it was not what they intended. And yet it's what happened. So again, I think it's ridiculous to say Kabam doesn't play their own game. But there's a big difference between being average to above average at the game, or maybe to use somebody who's definitely an in-game player like Karate Mike to help you make content, and somebody that plays at that level and designs content. Now, that's the purpose of the content creator program, amongst many things. It's not just to be a public relations wing of Kabam, and I'm not saying that means they can't criticize Kabam, because there are great people like my friend Lagacy, who I think does a good job of calling out Kabam when they need to, but also is part of that CCP. But that program, I think, is that they realize that the content creators oftentimes play the game more hours than their own developers, and so they want the opinions of the best players. But of course, they also want them to promote new champions and offers and other things that help them grow the game and make money, because they're a for-profit company. That's what they should want to do. Well, for years and years and years and years, even though I always seem to have the worst luck with it, we had what we like to call revive farming hacks in this game. We're talking about hacks, especially in Acts 2, Acts 3. This was well known to everybody, including Kabam. And then, all of a sudden, they made an announcement that they were cutting it off. And that was a very controversial result. Now, they have given us some attempt at saying we're going to even it out with daily quests, including the Apothecary, but this thing is pretty garbage, to be honest. I think it's not at all equivalent of what was replaced. But there are still content creators out there. There are still YouTubers. There are multiple. I think it is unfair to call out anyone by name, because it is generally a culture, not an individual, that have been promoting the only source left that I hear from people who do this every day that they could trust, and that was Act 5, 4, 6. It's a lot of numbers. 5.4.6. So we're talking about Act 5, Chapter 4, last chapter. The Ultron boss. This thing is where so many people the last couple months, if not more, have revived their revives. But you'll notice that my map has small energy, 1-star chests. There are no revives to be seen. Now, for my account, which seems to be allergic to having revives pop up anywhere, that's not at all surprising. Even in the heyday where it felt like everybody but myself was getting multiple revives to pop up, I wasn't seeing them on my end. But it just so happens that the belief from quite a few members of the community that have reached out to me, and they've asked me in some cases to name people, and I just refuse to do it. I don't think it's classy. I don't think it's necessarily even ethical. And I just think it's talking about a culture more than specific content creators. But Kabam has recently, allegedly, gotten wind that 546 is a very popular spot for so many people to farm revives. With Necropolis here, and obviously people haven't completed or explored Act 8 all the way yet from what has been released so far, we have seen a change where these players are coming to me saying, Prof, please make a video soon that talks about how the revive farming has been nerfed, and we think part of it's because Kabam didn't realize until the last month or so from some of its own content creators that this was such a blind spot that they missed because they thought that they had stopped the revive farming when they nerfed Acts 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. But 5, 4, 6 was not on their radar. But when they saw people in live streams revive farming and how effective it was, it made them realize we've got to cut this off. And yes, that's why sometimes we can't have nice things. Yes, that is a pattern of behavior that Kabam has done in the past with other things like the aforementioned Corvus loophole and original revive farming and so many other examples of things that they try their best to patch up. But I'm not saying that if I was running Kabam or part of Kabam, I wouldn't do the same thing, because obviously if you've got something that's costing you profit or what you believe to be profit, you want to close it. That is an anti-Kabam pro player loophole. Of course, if the roles were reversed, we have several years of historic dragging your feet patches where something is really hurting the player, but it's making Kabam more money, and so it is actually to their advantage to drag their feet and not fix it until months or even sometimes years after it's been discovered and reported. So, look, I promised those of you who reached out to me that I would make this video. I have. It is an inevitable conclusion, especially when content creators that are both involved with Kabam and not involved with Kabam, when they do things on the live stream that could hurt Kabam and could help the player, that because these aren't things behind closed doors. And I feel like more than ever, it's hard to keep things behind closed doors because the forums are also places where people will say, Kabam, it's not fair. Look at what these players are getting. I'm not getting it. You need to stop this. And then all of a sudden you can't have nice things. So, yes, I recorded this video and I posted it on my channel. If you're watching it now, obviously we've covered it. So thanks for watching. Have a good one.